Welcome back to Families in Action right here on KHTS, AM 1220, your hometown station. I'm your co-host, Mike Doherty. I'm sitting in today for Bob Sheritz, who's out on a well-deserved vacation, and I'm sitting here with our host, the man with the most, Cary Quashen.
Hey, Mike, good to be here. It really is. And this is such an important topic that we're dealing with today, because when parents come to us or families come to us, they really feel lost. So we have these Bill of Rights that we have for parents. These they've been around for about 30 years that I know of, and actually we had parents and kids write these up.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So it's been around for forever, and it really does kind of help put things in perspective.
Well, here's the first right.
Yeah.
Now, remember, this is for parents. You have the right not to explain your behavior.
Oh
boy.
Like
a trap many parents fall into. They try to explain themselves to their child, and what does their child do?
They try to explain logic to their kids. Now, let me ask you something. How do you explain logic to a 14 or 15-year-old kid? That part of their brain's not even developed yet. Hey, Mom, can I go to a party? What time's it over? 4 in the morning. Do you think that's a good idea? Absolutely. Now you're going to get into an argument with them. Who's going to win?
Yeah, well, a 14-year-old is going to have one thing on their mind, and that is getting what they want.
Getting what they want. They're not going to hear anything you say.
Right.
In fact, if you start trying to explain too much logic, what happens? It's right here. Read it. Couldn't say it any better.
Well, if what's going to happen is they are going to argue with you until you're exhausted and you comply with them.
And then what happens, you end up in groups like Action, and you kind of feel like how do I say this appropriately, a wet noodle.
Sure. Very ineffective.
Very ineffective because you say no, you really mean talk me into it. You say no, you mean it, they talk you into it, and your self-esteem gets so low, so poor.
I know lots of parents that fall into that trap, where they say something to their child, this is the way it's going to be, and then the child gets a long face, and then they go, oh, okay, you're off the hook.
All right.
Well, good did that do?
No.
You just taught the child that they're running the house.
And not only are they running the house, you taught them that no doesn't mean no.
Right.
No means talk me into it. No means maybe. And all that kinds of stuff. And then we get parents, and it's such a mess by the time they get there. The kid doesn't know, and the kid's just going to do whatever they want to do.
Well, let's repeat Parents' Bill of Rights. Number 1, you have the right not to explain your behavior.
Because if you try, it's going to be a long, drawn-out argument that nobody wins.
And number 2, you have the right to change your mind.
No.
What a thought.
How do you like that? Well, how many times have your kid came up to you and said, hey, Mike, hey, Dad, I want to go here and here and here, and you just woke up and okay, and then you wait a minute, that doesn't sound good. When you have a chance to think about it, you have the right to change their mind. And they go, well, that's not fair. You said yes. If they want fair, they can go to Pomona. Life's not always fair. And so many times they'll call you, they'll work you over when you're at work, when you're just getting out of a shower, and they just keep on going and going until you say, okay, and then you have a chance to think about it. You as a parent have the right to change your mind. Parents and kids are not equal.
Well, let me tell you what we did in our house. We literally sit down with our kid and say, we made a mistake. We've thought this over. We're not going to do that.
Perfect.
And the child would say, hey, but you said, and I said, I just told you. We considered it, and we made a mistake, and we're changing what we said. And this is what we're going to do now. And guess what? That's what we're going to do now.
But you see what you did that's different than a lot of other people. You stayed consistent, and you didn't surrender.
There you go. Consistency is very
important. Do you know
important.
why people surrender and they're not consistent? Because they want their kids to like them, and they don't want their kids to get mad. And let me just say real quickly that it's not one of those a home when there's children. It shouldn't be a democratic home. It should be a dictatorship, and I don't mean bad or negative, but parents need to rule the house.
No, you're 100%
we
correct.
know what's right.
You do.
Exactly.
And one of the reasons that they need to have the ability to change their mind is because things change.
Things change.
And not only that, they may be looking at something and saying, this isn't working out. It just isn't. So we're going to do this instead of that.
Exactly.
And they should feel free to do that.
And by the way, parents and kids, really, I'm going to say this a lot during the show, we're not equal. I mean, we've grown up already. We've been there, done that. We know what's right and what's wrong better than they do. So it's our job to parent our kids, not to be their friends.
There you go.
It's our job.
What a concept.
What a concept.
Number 3, you have the right to express your feelings.
I love this one.
Now, see, people think their kids are the only ones that are allowed to express their feelings.
No.
Wrong.
No, read that for me. I would like to get through that one.
You may have been told that you should not get angry or not tell your child you love them in public.
Let's stop for a second. Appropriate anger, obviously.
Certainly.
And not tell your child that you love them in public.
Give me a break.
That really, isn't that crazy?
Hey, give me a break.
I hear that all the time from parents. Well, I can't hug my kid. I can't touch my kid. We don't talk. I can't say I love him. Let me tell you something. That is insane. I'll never forget. I was taking one of my children to school. In those days, it was Bouquet Canyon School. Remember that one? You turn down that. I don't remember the name of the street, but it was a cul-de-sac. And you turn around. The principal would be there. You drop your kid off. There'd be 100 cars and the security, whatever, and all these parents and kids, and you drop them off, and they'd walk around. So I dropped my kid off, and I told him, "Hey, I love you," and he gave me a hug, and he walked out. Now, every night when I got home, all through their growing up years, even when I used to run groups late, I'd come home and lay down with my kids and tell them I loved them if they were awake or not.
There you go.
So this night, I was laying down with one of my children. I won't mention his name, Scotty. Oh, did I do that? So I was laying down with him, and he said, "Hey, Dad, do me a favor." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Don't do what you did today. Don't say you love me in front of my friends at school. It's a little embarrassing." You know what I said?
What?
I said, "Okay." And I went
Really?
into my room, and I was sad. I really couldn't. I stayed up all night thinking about it, so I figured I'll drive him to school.
I got to tell you.
Check this out. So I drive him to school. He gets out of my car. I looked at him. He looked at me, and you could see relief because I didn't say anything. So he's walking past his principal and everybody else. Now I'm pounding on my horn. Everybody's looking. I went, "Scotty!" He went, "Huh?" I went, "I love you." And you should have seen his face. Got back in my car. I said, "Gotcha, dude." And I picked him up that day, and he ran over, gave me a hug. He said, "Dad, you can say you love me whenever you want." And I said, "I'm going to anyways." Why in the world do we stop telling our kids that we love them when we love them? If it's an embarrassment, too bad. Never stop talking to your kids. Always let them know that you love them and that the feelings are good. This is Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS. And by the way, Scott, Sean, Courtney, Jessica, I love you guys. Welcome back to Families in Action on our hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen, along with my co-host, Michael Duarte. And today, Michael, we're talking about, if you just joined us, we're talking about Parents' Bill of Rights. Because a lot of times when things are going crazy, we just feel beat up, lost, and confused, and don't know that we have any rights. So we went over the first 3 of them, and if you missed them, you can always call 1-800-367-8336, and we'll make sure you get a copy or come to Tuesday Night Action every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. at Canyon High School in the Double A building. So where are we, Mike?
We're at number 4. I'm going to just repeat them really quickly. Number 1, you have the right not to explain your behavior. Hey, you have the right to change your mind. Number 3, you have the right to express your feelings. And now, number 4.
And by the way, about feelings, it's kind of one of those kind of things that I really have to say. If we don't let people know how we feel, bad things happen. We get sick. We drink too much. We get depressed. We can't sleep. We sleep too much. We look for things to feel good. It's just like, here, this cup. If you keep throwing ice in this, eventually it's going to overflow. If you keep putting feelings inside of you and you don't deal with them, we are going to overflow. So your feelings they're yours, and they're important, and make sure that they count.
Absolutely. And not only that, but you can't say I love you too many times.
No, you can't.
You can't do that. Number 4, here's a new one. You have the right to a drug-free home. This is non-negotiable. If someone insists that they be allowed to be loaded in your home, you have the right to ask them to leave once they sober up, of course.
Yeah, exactly. You never want to throw anybody out when they're loaded because something bad could happen.
Well, come on, Cary. You can reason with somebody that's loaded, can't you?
Yeah, I hear it. I get phone calls, Michael, all the time, and I'm listening to somebody screaming at someone in the background. I'm saying, what's going on? He's loaded. Okay, do you think this kid's going to remember you yelling tomorrow? You're fighting with the drug. Let him come down, and then let's deal with it appropriately.
So you're saying that you can't be reasonable with somebody that's loaded?
No, you can't. It's how.
Ask me if I knew that already.
I know you did. I was positive about that.
I love this. You have a right to a drug-free home. I was talking to a lady one time who had a son who was in his early 20s, and she said, he lives in my basement, and all day long, all he does is smoke marijuana. And I hate it, and I don't like him doing that. And I looked at her and I said, well, why are you enabling him to do it? Right. It's your home.
But you know what, parents, be role models to your kids, too. We really need to be examples. I know when our children were growing up, we decided there were going to be no alcohol or drugs in our home. We were going to be role models for our children. And I'll tell you what, not enough of that out there. I've talked to these kids, and they're saying, well, my parents are doing it. Why can't I? So be examples. Be role models for what you want from your children.
We talked about that last week with the teen driving.
We did.
Being an example, good example to your children is very, very important.
It all starts at home. I hate to say it, parents, but our kids learn from us. It's like smoking. Kids don't smoke unless what? Peer pressure or learn behavior from home.
Sure.
Kids don't drink unless what? Peer pressure or it's at home. Kids don't use drugs unless what? Peer pressure or at home. It starts at home.
So you have the right to a drug-free home, and
Absolutely.
That should not be negotiable.
It should not.
Number 5, you have the right to determine who may enter your home. Oh, I love this. My wife and I are having fits right now because there are a bunch of strangers in our home tearing our house apart.
Well, you kind of don't have much control over that.
We could. We could say, get out of my house, you're all fired, but then we'd be living in a hubble because it's not finished.
But you know what? Control. That's where I want to go with this. When you're dealing with your children, read that again.
You have the right to determine who may enter your home.
That's about as far as it gets when their friends come in the picture. Pick battles you can win. Because, hey, you cannot hang out with Joe and Tom. Okay, Mom, and they go to school. Who are they hanging out with?
Joe and Tom.
Whoever they want. But you surely have the right to determine who comes into your home. And they better be people that respect you and your home and your rules and boundaries of your home.
Absolutely.
Period. And
that should be non-negotiable.
It should be non-negotiable, and that's just the way it is. So pick your battles. And by the way, that old saying, at least I know where they're at. They're all at my house. I can see you. No, that doesn't work. That's a bad message.
It is.
That's a bad message.
Number 6, you have the right to impose consequences when household rules are violated.
Read the rest of that.
Oh, I love this. This does not mean abusing your child, nor does it mean making threats that you do not intend to carry out.
Let's stop there. First of all, number 1, when you're giving consequences, make sure that the consequence fit what you're doing. If your child is home late 3 hours, does that mean you should take off the door and all their clothes? Absolutely not. Maybe they should be home early tomorrow. If your kid has locked himself in a bedroom, plays depressing music and writes poetry about killing herself, take the door off.
There you go.
If you say you're going to ground your kid for a week, ground them for a week, not a day with good behavior. And by the way, when it comes to consequences, remember this. This is a tough one. I want everybody to hear this. 2 things. Number 1, if you take everything away, you got nothing left to deal with. Period. Pretty simple. Number 2, short-term consequences are wonderful. Long-term consequences backfire.
I love that. And I also like this one. Trust and privileges are earned.
But Dad, I've been sober for a week. What about the last 2 years, kid? They start doing good and they want everything right away. I don't think I ever met anyone, Mike, that woke up one day and said, I don't trust my kid ever, and that's it. They had to do things to earn you not to trust them. Now what?
And parents have the right to take them away when the child fails to comply with rules of the household. And who establishes those rules? Not the child.
No, it's just like, hey, you're the marketing guy over at Henry Mayo's Behavioral Health Unit.
That's right.
I'm the executive director.
That's
what
right.
if we called up and said, all staff leave, let the patients run it?
Whoa.
There's going to be problems. But why is it?
You think?
Why is it when parents come to our groups, their kids are running the house?
That makes no sense at
It's
all.
the
does
kind
it?
of the same kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you don't want the patients to run the place. You don't want your kids to run your house.
No, not at all. Hey, number 7.
Number 7.
Think about this one now.
We're running right through
You
these.
have the right to say no.
Oh, boy. What do you think stops most parents from saying that word? Why do most parents have such a hard time setting goals and boundaries and that kind of stuff? Why is it so hard for most parents to say the word no?
They just love their little sonny boy, and they just want him to have everything. And, come on, Cary.
Yeah, but everybody else can. And the deal is, what makes it so hard for most parents to say that word is we don't want our kids to be mad at us. We don't want our kids not to like us.
Yeah. Instead of being a parent, now you're trying to be their pal.
Yeah, and so what we do is we compromise some of our morals and ethics and boundaries and let our kids do things sometimes that aren't safe, that they shouldn't be doing because we want our kids to like us. Hey, you know what? Your kids don't have to like you every minute of every day. Do you like your kid every minute of every day? I'm sure you love them, but there are times you don't like them.
Well, and we said that to our son one time. I sat him down and I said, I have to tell you something. I love you very much, but right now at this moment, I don't like you a whole lot.
Exactly. I don't love the behavior you're doing. I love you, but not the behavior.
Nothing wrong with that.
And our job is to protect our children. Our job is to make sure that they stay away from that dark as much as we can and into nice, secure kind of deals. And so, hey, they don't have to like us, and the word no is perfectly okay. This is Families in Action on our local hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.